and welcome to the First Watch podcast. My name is Drake. I will be your host for this podcast. I will be joined by a rotating group of friends who come together and discuss their first watches, whether they be from the 1920s, the 2020s, or anything in between. Now, this is going to be a spoiler-heavy podcast, so if you haven't watched the movie already, you could either do one of two things. You could either, one, join us for the conversation and decide whether or not you want to watch the movie for the very first time, or two, you can pause this podcast, go watch the movie for the first time, and then come back and join us for the conversation. Now, without further ado, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the combo. Hello, and welcome back to the First Watch podcast. I have some returning guests. They were here not too long ago for their own movie, Somnia. Not long after we finished that episode up, we talked about them coming back to do the regular format of the show to watch a movie that they had yet to see yet. One of my favorite movies of all time, All That Jazz. They finally watched it for the first time a couple nights ago. And so we finally have them on to discuss All That Jazz. So I'm glad you guys are back.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. You guys are always welcome to come on. So, what did you guys initially think of All That Jazz? I know I told you that it's one of those movies that, like, really kind of woke me up in a way. So, I'm curious to see what other people think, you know, in different situations and have different viewpoints and different life experiences, how a movie affected me in one way may have affected other people in a different way.
Mhm.
How did that feel? How'd you guys feel about it?
It was excellent.
We really liked it.
Yeah.
I was really nervous going into it because so many of my friends love and like it, and so I always get nervous when I'm watching a movie that everyone else is like, this is the best movie I've ever seen. Anything that people give 4.5 stars or above, I'm like, oh, the pressure, the pressure is on to like this film. But I did like it. I thought it was really good, and I feel like maybe it didn't like resonate with me as close as it might have with you or with some other people who were. But one of my biggest takeaways is that I had never seen what's his name? Roy Schneider in anything other than Jaws. And I was like, this guy, and I love him in Jaws. And so I was like blown away with him. I was like, wow, like what a character performance from a person I didn't think about it. So now I'm like, I've got to see and I've got so many of his movies on my watch list. I'm like, I've got to get to him. I've got to see more of his stuff. But
Yeah, there are certain actors where if you only know them for one role, in my mind, that's just who they are. So like Roy Schneider just to me is Sheriff Brody. So seeing Sheriff Brody do all this crazy stuff was seeing Sheriff Brody sing and dance was wild.
he was so
And
good.
it felt like real
Yeah.
real character acting too, because
Like honestly, probably better acting than Jaws. Just like such a weird,
for sure.
so bonkers. I mean, just like
100%.
he was really acting in this one.
Yeah, I
Like, dang.
I think this is the second Roy movie that I saw. Like, obviously Jaws, I'd seen it several times. And, like, I went into this movie completely blind the first time I watched it. The only thing that I knew was the shit that was on the front cover, and a lot of celebrities and friends said it was really good.
Yeah.
So I was like,
That's
perfect.
about what
That's
we
all I
did.
needed to know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I bought it on during one of the Criterion sales, and I was like, I'll get to it eventually, right? And I like I needed to finally get back into watching movies after like going through a bunch of crazy shit last year. And the first movie I popped in, I was like, I don't know what to expect here. And seeing Roy, like, it took me a minute to go, wait a minute, I know that guy. And
Yeah.
like I had to look it up, and I was like, wait a minute, I do know that guy. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. And seeing him play through, I was like, this is completely different from what I know him as. Is awesome. Because like you said, he does act his ass off in this movie.
He is.
Like,
Incredible.
absolutely acts his ass off. And I was like, okay. And it made me like really kind of pay attention to the movie. Obviously, because like it's just he draws you in.
He's
So
very
well.
charismatic.
He is. It's insane. Like I
Even
don't
while
get it.
being kind of an ass in the whole thing, he's still so charismatic. And I'm like, I mean, I get it. Everybody's forgiving him. They love him.
he's got this weird charisma about him that allows him to just kind of get away with anything.
True.
And literally get away with anything. Like he
Mhm.
can do no wrong in anyone's eyes, despite the fact that he's doing a lot of wrong in most people's lives.
Yeah.
It's insane. But yeah, that was the first like big takeaway that I had after watching the movie for the first time was the fact that he was just so good in the damn movie.
Mhm.
The editing really got me at first. I was like, okay, like I really have to pay attention to this because if I don't, then I'm gonna be lost like really fast
Yeah.
because it was like jumping around all over the place.
Mhm.
Was that a little off-putting to you guys at first, or were you kind of just like, okay, okay, no big deal?
No, I don't think it's off-putting. It took me like a little bit to figure out exactly what was happening, like him talking to is it Angelique, and so like, but then after that, I was like, okay, 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 I see what's happening. So the jumping around didn't really affect me at all.
Yeah, that of the angel. Her name was what? Like, did
It's like
she have a name?
Angelique or something, Angel
Which would make
something.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, if you think about it, that kind of tracks. Hold on, I'm gonna look some things up real quick.
Another famous actress playing a really small role. So
In playing
the
Angelique? Oh,
the
Jessica
Angel, yeah.
Lange? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is kinda killer. To get Jessica Lange to play.
'Cause she, I mean, she was barely,
That
she just kinda talking a little bit.
yeah,
She wasn't in
maybe
yeah,
maybe, like, 5 minutes?
wasn't a huge role, but I was like, "I know her."
Yeah, same with Lithgow, he was only in it for a few minutes.
That was a jump scare. I actually went,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him
Yeah.
that young.
Yeah.
yeah.
I
No, I think the
the
youngest I
fir
saw him was in, like, Blood or something, or, the other one that he's in, where
Dressed to Kill.
Dressed to Kill, where he's a bad guy,
no skill.
and I was
Yeah.
like, but he was really young in this, and it was a jump scare.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
"Wait a second, I know that face."
The first time I saw it, I was like I kinda did that whole, like, that, like, dog kilt, like, to the head is like, "Huh?"
I did
Like
I was the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where I was like, "That guy."
It's like, "Wait a minute, I
Pointed
know
this way.
you." Yeah, I know you. Yeah, he was very interesting to see him in this, even for a minute, and playing this, like, guy who's very obviously jealous of
Yeah.
Snyder's character,
Mhm.
and you're just like, "Oh, okay, like, that's cool." Like, I don't know what to expect of him in this movie because, like I said, he was only in it for a few minutes, but it
Mhm.
was really cool to see him in it even for a minute or 2. There's a lot of, like, big names in this film. Um, Another one being Leland Palmer. He was,
So, I
she
wasn't
was,
as familiar with Leland Palmer.
yeah,
So,
she fucking killed it in
she
this
did,
movie
I
as
just
well.
wasn't,
She was great.
I don't know that I've seen any of her other stuff or was aware. The only thing we did was when we were watching it, we pointed out that she has the same name as, one of the Twin Peaks characters. But
Yep.
other than that, I don't, I loved her in this. I just, like, I don't know that I was super familiar with anything else, uh,
Yeah. You
that
you should
she's done.
definitely check out some of her movies because like, she's really good. Um, and, like, her ability to dance in this movie is, like, fantastic. Now, granted, there's a ton of dancing in this movie. It is formulated almost like a musical, but the thing is, like, it's not because 'cause they're putting together a musical for those who don't know. Snyder's character is working on a massive production that he's been working on for a very long time, and there's a ton of song and dance in this, but it is not a traditional musical in any way. So yes, it is a musical, but also no, it's not.
Yeah.
And I think it has like a nice balance of being both to show like the inner workings of what his life is like, while
Mhm.
also like not overpowering it to where it feels very musically esque, if you will. I think it's a great balance of the two.
Yeah. One of my favorite, like, not necessarily performances, but seeing them in it was, is it, his girlfriend? Is it
Uh,
Katie? Her, Anne
yeah.
Ranking. She
Yeah, yeah,
is,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she's in the, my favorite version of Annie, with
Mm.
Tim Curry and,
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Bernadette
Carol.
Peters and Carol Burnett.
From, 1982?
Yes, the '80s one. I
Yeah,
think it's the best one
yeah.
across the board. That's very important to me. I watched a lot growing up, and she is in that. She plays Daddy Warbucks' assistant, and I already knew that
Mm.
she was an incredible dancer and a really good singer. And so, and she died like, like 6 years ago. And so, like, seeing her in this, I actually was, I was like, oh, I do know her, but I've only ever seen her in Annie, and so it was really fun to also recognize her, and also just she played a really good understated role. So,
Yeah,
all right.
she doesn't do a lot in this film, but her plays like a really big part in the
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
her, and not to like jump ahead, but her the dance scene that she does with the daughter is maybe my favorite scene in the entire film, and so I just really enjoyed that.
oh, that dance scene is fantastic. I loved it so much. I was so curious about how many times they did it. I tried looking it up and seeing if I
Mhm.
can find how many times they did it, because the second that they start going down the stairs, I got nervous because my first thought was, "My ass is falling down those stairs so fast. There's no way I'm gonna be able to do that." And to be able to get a kid to do it and do it so well and work with somebody else, who is much older than her while they're filming a movie, while all that craziness is going on was just, like, really cool to see,
Yeah.
because as you guys know, film shoots are long days.
Mhm.
And depending on how many times they had to do that, that could have been very tiring, but she was able to do it very well and keep up with the acting. Sorry, I'm dying apparently. Um, funny, considering the theme of the movie. But, yeah, she seemed like she was able to, like, keep up with being able to act and being able to do the dance. I don't know how long they had her on set because I don't know if, like, child acting laws have changed since then. I'm guessing they have since this was, what, the '70s, '79?
And she
So
was
I'm
really
guessing,
good.
like, the yeah, she was very good. I was kinda surprised at how good she was in this film. Um,
I read that she
who
quit acting.
did she really?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like the only
This
thing
the
she's
only
been.
thing she's ever done. It said that she quit acting and became like a born again Christian, and she's never done anything else.
It also said
That's
she auditioned for Blue Lagoon,
Yeah.
the
And
really?
then like
the
didn't
Brooke
get
Shields
it
movie.
and then quit.
Yeah,
So
which
Huh.
maybe that was probably a good thing that
probably
she didn't do
probably
Blue
blessing in
Lagoon.
disguise, but
But
just
Yeah.
bizarre. She was really good, so this is a shame, but
That's a really good, role to start on and to end on.
yeah.
yeah,
If you're gonna
yeah,
do
kind of
only
Even
one,
do it.
filmography.
she did a really big classic. Not that they knew it was gonna be one, and
Yeah.
then dipped. So looks good on
Yeah, I
her IMDb.
no kidding. I feel like they probably had no idea of, like, what kind of impact this movie may have had at the time that they were making it,
Mhm.
but seeing, like, how many people revere it so much and talk about it so highly,
Yeah.
it's kinda crazy for I'm guessing for anyone, who's still alive to who was involved in this, to look at this and go like, "Damn, like, I didn't even realize it was gonna be as big as it is."
Mhm.
To and be so meaningful to so many people, which has gotta be, like, a really cool feeling. Yeah. Is there anyone that stood out to you, the most, like, where you're just like, "Oh, that's kind of surprising," other than Roy, obviously, because he's just, like
Yeah.
he's fucking killer, but is there anyone else that you saw and you're like, "Oh, wow."
I think other than being shocked by Roy Schneider, I really was just kind of impressed with the little girl. I liked
Mhm.
her entire thing, and her relationship with her dad, especially since we're given that Joe Gideon's not a good person and maybe not even always a good dad. And so I just liked any time they were on screen. They had really, really good chemistry together. Um, and so, which I feel like has to be kind of hard when you're like maybe an awkward little girl or little boy and you're on set with some grown actor that you don't know. And so, like, to see good chemistry between child actors and adult actors is always a fun thing. And so I really liked theirs.
Yeah, he had incredible chemistry with every single woman in the movie, like without exception. Every
Yeah.
single woman or girl in the movie had incredible chemistry, and Josie was like, and everybody feels like this. She was like, he is too bad for all of these women. Like he doesn't deserve any of these women.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah, but he's so charming.
he
You
is.
know, like how could you not, even if he's just horrible, how could you not sort of be drawn to him from what we see? And we see even the really shitty stuff. And you still sort of understand, oh, this is why kind of everybody likes him. Um, Not that he's well loved by everybody, but they're all attracted to him.
Yeah, he is the atypical womanizer who, like a lot of people who are in that position, they feel a lot of emptiness in their life, which is why they kind of try to fill some kind of void through sleeping with as many women as they can. And I think we got a decent glimpse of that without it having to spell it out for us and beat us over the head with the fact that
Mhm.
he feels rather empty inside. We could already tell just based on the way that he is going about putting the show on. He's feeling all of this stress and he's trying to make it perfect. And he's very much a perfectionist in his professional life, but in his personal life, he is very sloppy.
Mhm.
And to see that juxtaposition in the movie is really cool. But considering he's such a perfectionist in his like professional life and he feels like he can't get anything right. He tries to drink that away and drug it away and sleep it away so that he doesn't think about it anymore. Because it's one thing that's like really gnawing at him every single day. Plus, he's getting up and doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's almost like the movie is almost edited kind of like a Groundhog Day kind of situation, but it's just to show his everyday life of what he was dealing with.
Mhm.
How did you feel about the way that he was like using these things as a way to fill a void? Have you seen that in other ways in your own lives? Have you known anyone like that? Did you connect to it in any way like that?
The routine. I loved the editing choice of having these silent cutaways to shower, pills, it's showtime, folks. Because that did remind me of the editing in Groundhog Day. And these routines um, of not necessarily positive or negative, but this sort of like neutral mundanity that is cut in between sort of really positive scenes and really negative scenes. Like he's doing these things no matter what. I thought that was a really cool way to ground the movie and the story. It puts him in a very kind of it shows him in a really personal, humane way.
That's one thing about mundanity that could be both a good thing and a bad thing. Like him being in a mundane situation where he's constantly doing the same thing over and over again can be good for some people. For him, it's not. It is very much not at all. And I was very much like that in that getting up and doing the same thing over and over and over again was kind of driving me crazy. Which is why I was also spiraling in the same kind of way that he was, not necessarily the womanizing side of things, but more so the alcohol and the constantly doing it over and over again to fill like some sort of void. And um yeah, it could show just how dangerous that mundane like doing the same thing over and over and over again can really get to the mind, which could be very scary if not taken care of and if you don't take care of yourself. His character is very complex. His character is very well written. I think the
Mhm.
whole movie itself is very well written. I feel like, you know, the best writing the best bit of writing in this movie is actually, oddly enough, the stand-up routine for the movie The Stand Up. Because you start with this and you like this just feels like it's a another thing that he's dealing with and kind of formulating as an artist. And then it carries throughout, but not only does it carry throughout the entire movie, it has a reason. And it doesn't feel like it's wasted. Do you guys feel like the stand up part was good? Do you feel like it was kind of just like it was background, so whatever? Like how do you guys?
I really liked all the stuff with the movie editing. Um, and I think it's some of the themes that carried through were one, what the monologue was saying, and then also the fact that he was watching it over and over again to edit it and how he cut it together.
Mhm.
And then also I thought there was a really sort of profound moment toward the end where that was the part of the movie that the TV critic really liked from the film, and she sort of ignored everything that Gideon did, putting it together and put it all on the actor. And it was like, oh well, he didn't really direct this scene. He let the actor have free will and or, free reign of it. Um, one thing that I was not a fan of is we got so much of that stand-up routine and that monologue at the beginning over and over again where it was ingrained to us. I didn't think that we needed it to come back over in VO later on in the film when it was necessary. I think that we
Okay.
got enough of it where when those themes of sort of like the stages of grief were coming back up in the film, I didn't need to hear it in a flashback VO. I think we could have pieced that together without having to hear it again, and we would have known that this was what he was going through in the third act, were the five different stages of grief and bargaining with death and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that it would have been better maybe if they had Joe's voice come through to basically figure out that he is starting to like understand what the stand up was talking about in that film, since like the whole point of that VO is to kind of show that he's finally understanding the 5 stages of grief, because throughout the movie, during that editing portion, he's very much, like, standoffish during that, portion, because he's like, "Oh, this is bullshit." Like, you can kinda tell on his face is like, "This is dumb, like, this makes no sense, I don't understand it." But as he is getting to the part where he's slowly dying and getting closer to that end, those same thoughts are starting to come across his own mind. So do you think it would have played a little bit better if Roy's voice would have been the one narrating that part?
Yeah,
Or
maybe.
just not over all, like, not
And
have it in there at all?
are we supposed to understand that he wrote the film as well? Because he did
I
direct
don't
it and he
know.
cut it
Or
together.
no, Bob, I think are you talking about the film in the movie, like,
The
the
yeah,
stand-up?
the stand up.
I don't think that he wrote it. I think he just directed it, if I'm
Okay.
like, that's what would make sense to me, because I don't think that he would have written it, because I feel like if he would have written it, that he probably would have said something to the degree of, like, made an observation of, like, "Oh, well, he didn't say that, the right way," or, like, he didn't I don't know, it just I feel like he would have said something a little bit different during that portion
Mhm.
of the editing, but I may be wrong. Because I don't think they actually state that he wrote it, but I just
Yeah.
kinda guessed that he directed it, and that was it.
Mhm. Yeah, because
Uh
the character has a similar attitude toward the whole thing as he does, because he's mocking the stand-up character is mocking the idea of the five stages of grief. And but I feel like had that come up toward the end without ever explicitly referencing the stand-up bit, I think the audience could have gathered, oh, this is mirroring that big, huge chunk of the movie that we saw earlier.
Yeah.
And I think when you have a VO narration reminding you of things that happened like an hour ago, it feels like it's sort of hitting you over the head with it. And that was a sense I got a couple times in the third act of the movie. I
That's
started thinking
fair.
to myself, I'm understanding the themes of this. We're doing a little too much
Mhm.
over explaining of the themes.
Yeah. I get that.
I I didn't have I didn't feel the same way when we watched it. We talked about this after we watched it, and I see what he meant, but I also stuff it didn't really like stick out to me as much. But I do agree in the sense that movies sometimes do feel like they have to over explain things to their audiences instead of trusting that their audiences will just get there on their own. So whereas I didn't think it was a bad thing or that it was necessarily unnecessary, I do see what he means when movies do that because it happens a lot. It's like, oh well, let me hold your hand while I explain these themes again. Like it's not a bad thing, but also, I think your audiences could have gotten there. You know, I think I could have gotten there at the end, but I also didn't necessarily hate the voiceover. But I'm a lot easier to.
And I do think it's a very clever thing that they're doing here, because a lot of my favorite movies are sort of portraits of artists where their work reflects their life.
Mm.
So it is cool because I didn't realize they did a good job of very subtly revealing the exposition that he's a director. Because at first I thought he was just a stage director or a choreographer, and then I thought he was just a film editor, and then it turned out he had directed the movie as well. So the further you go, releasing little tiny bits of information at a time, and then tying that theme up at the end was very, very cool. And I did like that the only scene from that film that we saw was the one that reflected his life or mirrored his life so closely. I thought that was really, really cool thing to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, you're
Really
talking
smart.
about the dream sequence at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That dream sequence is ultimately what fucked me up the first time I watched it.
Mhm.
That's the part where I was just like, "Oh, okay. Alright, this is heavy. Like, this is insane." I really love the way that they did that. That had to have been a lot of, like, trying to figure things out and, like, a little chaotic at first, but I
Mhm.
feel that they kind of reined it in perfectly. Yeah, I don't know, like, seeing him in that bed and then seeing Joe Gideon's character staring at him, like, staring at his own body
Mhm.
during that and being like, "Do you not regret the choices that you've made to get to this point?"
Mhm.
Like, that, like, really hit me hard because that was at a time that I was still drinking, like, I was still very heavily doing it, and, like, for some reason, it just, like, hit me like a fucking brick wall, and I was like, "Okay, alright, cool," and it made me, like, kind of rewire the way that I thought about myself, which is really cool that a movie can do that, and it's very fascinating that a movie can do that. But yeah, that dream sequence was, like, the coolest bit of the entire movie for me. It was very, like, chaotic and kinda sporadic, but it was also very well formulated,
Mhm.
and I liked that a lot.
I liked it a lot because one of my favorite things about the movie was all the dancing and the musical numbers because I'm a really big musical fan, and so it reminded me of that era of musicals that I do like, and so I liked the high concept dream sequence vibe. And then while watching it, we were without telling each other realized that it was reminding of us of a very specific movie that we never would have thought about because they feel like they'd be polar opposite. But after it was over, we both said that it reminded us a lot of Synecdoche, New York. I don't know if you've ever seen that. What's the?
Probably call.
It's a Charlie Kaufman film with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's really good. It's one of his favorite movies of all time. I really like it, but also it's so like insane that like it gives me a headache at times. It's so high concept. It's very very cool, very well written, but shot it weirdly this movie felt a lot like that to the point where I can't help but wonder if Kaufman had seen this film and was somewhat inspired because they're both very much alike and not alike at all. But that's like the first film that came to mind. So you should watch that since
Yeah.
you like this. I would be curious to know what you thought about Synecdoche.
Yeah, this movie reminded me of a lot of movies
So weird.
that all came out after all that jazz. So it does feel very influential in the in that kind of thing. Like there are certain um artist types or big figure types who are deeply flawed, some more than others, and then sort of have a downfall. Like There Will Be Blood
Mm-hmm.
or Tar,
The wrestler.
the wrestler. Yeah, but then you also have artists whose work reflects their life, like Synecdoche, New York. That's about a playwright whose life eventually becomes a play that he's directing. He by the third act, when he's old and dying, he's cast people to play younger versions of himself and his girlfriends and his kids and things like that.
It's
Oh,
it
so I'm
is
gonna cry during that too.
Oh,
Awesome.
it is really really good, and it's some of I think Philip Seymour Hoffman's best work. So But yeah, this it reminded me a lot of that. But I liked the dream sequence was where I started thinking about Synecdoche, but the I liked all the, like, really goofy, like, the doctors, which you said you didn't he's like, "I don't know how I feel about the doctors singing," and I was like, "I kinda like it."
No, yeah,
It was
it
just goofy enough. I like musicals with weird lyrics and weird stuff like that, and so I liked how, like, almost silly the dream sequence felt while also being a very serious point in the film. So
I felt like the dream sequence when it comes to, like, having the doctors in there, my kind of after watching it for a second time, my thought was, "Oh, well, maybe this is Joe Gideon's way of getting to himself by having the doctors that were around him who were so serious be like this, overacting, you know, versions of themselves that he is so used to on the stage to finally get to him to be like, "Hey, are you getting it now? Like, this is it. This is over.
mhm,
Like, are you dumb? Like, this is you should have done something a long time ago to fix this. And we tried telling you, and now it's too late."
mhm,
But I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah, everybody was sort of speaking his language at the end, and
Yeah,
he put himself in the center of the stage, the center of attention, but in a much more negative way.
yeah. I I thought it was really cool that they did that. There's so many different layers to the dream sequence, including like the music that was involved. The writing was great in that dream sequence. Was there anything else that kind of stood out, like where it was like, oh, I didn't expect that? Like, were there any lines to you that you're like, oh, that kind of hit me?
a scene that made me a little emotional, and I cannot really explain to you why, is when he has escaped the hospital room for the first time, and he is down there with the janitor, cook, what William, and they're singing um together. Or he's asking the guy to sing, and I don't know why, but it made me like a little bit emotional. I was like, I really liked that scene. It felt very real. I really liked that guy. Don't even know his name. Um, but it was just such a like sweet moment. It's such a chaotic, stressful film. Um, I don't know. I can't even pinpoint why I really liked it. I just like it's one of my one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, I kind of felt like one of those last ditch efforts to try and fight for his life. In a way that he was like, maybe I should. Like to me, it was kind of like, oh yeah, maybe I should kind of fight for this thing, even though that I've basically ruined it by my own actions. Even though the doctors, constantly told me over and over again that I should probably stop my own behavior, and I just couldn't for the life of me.
Mhm,
And now that I've gotten to this point to where I'm at the brink of death, I'm finally realizing that maybe I should have done that.
mhm,
And so I'm like trying to muster up the strength to prove that I can or prove to myself that I can. But
mhm.
by then it's already too fucking late.
Yeah.
It's the kind of scene that you would expect in a movie like this to be a flashback to a
Mhm.
better part of his life, or like a formative moment when he was a kid. But a lot of the formative moments when he was a kid were kind of bad moments.
Yeah.
So it was really cool. It's like in Citizen Kane. It's like the Rosebud scene, except instead of it being at the very beginning of the movie, it was actually chronologically at the very end of the movie. It's one of the purest moments that he had,
Yeah.
but it was
Mhm.
also one of the last moments that he had.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of connections to this movie and to Citizen Kane for
Yeah.
sure. At least in the way that it's edited, the way that like
Yeah.
the storytelling is done. But yeah, I think there are a lot of pretty interesting connections there. I do want to say that like the young Joe Gideon scenes were very just like fucked up, and like he was sure he was an adult then, but at least in the ones that were like really odd and off-putting, like whenever he went on stage as a young dancer in the middle of the night, like those women fucking with him like that was like it was so weird. Like I don't know why they would do that, I guess, other than to rile him up and just kind of embarrass him.
Yeah.
But it is very obvious they are, like, at least twice his age.
Mhm.
So, if they could have been, like, not been a dick, but then again, there could have been so many different reasons as to why he continued to do the work that he did, and probably why he was also a bit of a womanizer, because that may have awoken something in him that he
Mhm.
was like, "I hated that part, but I really loved the attention that I was getting, even
Mhm.
though it might have been negative. I was really enjoying the attention I was getting from these women, so kinda I crave it more," that kinda thing.
And his mom's character said to the angel that that he was around all these topless women all the time, and he never even noticed. That obviously wasn't true. That was just from her perspective, and it's another one of these things that kind of enabled all that to happen. This sort of toxic environment that he grew up in.
Yeah, she is very much an enabler and someone who, I guess, was blind to a lot of the things that he was
Mhm.
doing, and I hope she doesn't see this, but I doubt that she will. My grandmother was very much the same with my dad. He did drugs, he was very much a drinker, like, he was very addictive. Ultimately, I believe that drugs is what ended up killing him. Um, and she was very blind to a lot of the things that he was doing, which is why he was able to continue to do it. There were multiple times in his life, even as an adult, when he was like 40, 42, 43, that he was living with them, and he was still doing these things. And I could see it. I knew it. Even though I had my own problems, I could see it in him.
Mhm.
And I was aware of it, but she was always blind to it. And it's probably this belief that, "Oh, yeah, my kid can do no wrong," right? That, like, and a lot of mothers have this. We watched a documentary last night. I watched this with my mom and stepdad last night about, the 2 kids that barricaded themselves in their bedrooms because they didn't wanna go see their dad because their dad was abusive. And the mother of the dad was very blind to a lot of the things that were going on in the home because she didn't wanna believe that her son was that way. So I think this is a great way of art mirroring life, in that a lot of mothers in particular don't want to necessarily admit a lot of the faults of their children, because that also means that they would have to admit a lot of the faults in themselves.
Mhm.
And I think that's ultimately why she was kinda that way. Yes, she may have been a good mother, but I'm sure that there's plenty of places in her life where she might have gone wrong that led to Joe Gideon being the way that he was later on in life.
Something else that stuck out to me that felt like it took a back seat but was uh very hard hitting is just how all the men in his life felt about him. Especially the scene where they're all around the table talking about how it would be better for them if he died. Um and it kind of really does show you, just like, it doesn't matter how successful you are, because I think it was a very interesting thing, because all the women in his life were very forgiving and they loved him, and they were,
They wanted him
they
to
wanted
live.
to live, and all of the men are like, actually, we would save a lot of money and get a lot of money if he were to die, um blah 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 blah. And so I found that contrast interesting too. And one thing, when it was over, you said something about these movies like this that are based on person's life, is you realize just how much that person hates themselves.
Mhm, yeah.
Because it's very clear that he is not a fan of himself. So
Yeah, I was feeling, and the same thing if in like Kaufman movies or things like that. Anytime something feels, or in my own stuff, um, things that feel sort of loosely biographical, there's a sense of self-loathing that comes across in the way the characters are portrayed.
Mhm.
Where even if you're feeling sympathetic to the main character, you get the sense that the writer does not feel sympathetic to the main character at all.
If I'm not mistaken, and I'm kind of trying to double check this just to be sure. I think that this was kind of based on Bob Fosse's life.
Yeah, I read that he like the idea came to him after he had a heart attack.
Yeah, and
So,
after his I think, Angelique was also kind of heavily influenced by his late
mhm,
wife who died in '61. I think this movie
mhm,
came out in, what, '79?
Yeah.
So, like, there must have been a lot of things in his life that made him kind of reflect on his own life and got him to start writing this, which is really cool. I think that's a really cool thing that art can do is kind of force people to um, think about their own lives. And not only did he was he able to do that and put it onto a screen, but also for people like myself, cause us to look at it and go, "Oh, maybe I should do a little bit of the same."
Mhm.
And that's a really cool thing that you can provide to the world.
mhm.
Yeah, and it can
But
serve a couple different purposes. If you're Bob Fosse, it can be, look at this horrible character and all the things he's done, and he dies, and that reminds me of myself, and it serves as a sort of like Ebenezer Scrooge cautionary tale. But it can also serve as a much further advanced cautionary tale if you're watching it and you're younger and you see it's like uh, There Will Be Blood with the cautionary tale of endless greed and ambition, and you saw a little bit of that, and it is much better to see something like that or hear something like that when you're younger rather than when you're older and you've lived it, and it changes the movie from um bleak or very bleak to less bleak.
Mhm.
yeah, 100%. It is better to be able to see a reflection in art when you are younger than when you are older, for sure.
Mhm.
Which is why I think that a lot of people closer to our ages watch as need to watch as many films as they can from many different places, many different people, many different times and countries in the world. That way they can kind of reflect on things a little bit more
Yeah.
and kind of get a better understanding of the world around them. And yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of my thought on that.
Mhm.
I think this movie does that very well. Yeah, I was there was something else I was thinking about that just completely lost me.
I was embarrassed to admit that I didn't realize who Bob Fosse was exactly, even though I did apparently know because he did Cabaret, which I've never
Yeah.
seen, but I know the music from because it's Cabaret and it's famous, but I've never seen the actual movie and he's the director and I was like that makes sense. He also did this film with Liza Minnelli, I know, but like I didn't realize just how I guess prolific he was in that musical world and in that. And so I was like, oh, it's just one of those things where sometimes everybody's got like one or two movies or directors where they are like so late in life to realizing who they are. And so
Yeah.
that was me. It was me finding out that he did Cabaret.
Yeah.
So now it made
Cabaret
me
is
realize that I
fantastic.
want to watch Cabaret, which I've always been meant to. But then again, I've always meant to watch this, and I finally did. So thank you
Yep.
for that.
Yeah, what how long have you guys known about this movie and you just kinda put it off? Was it quite a while?
I've I've known about it for a long time now. I mean, a few years at least. Because I would say even before I was heavily involved in like film Twitter and stuff, because of its musical aspects, I knew about. I had seen pieces of the finale, the dance, just out and about in the wild, and but I didn't really know what it was. I just knew of it, and I actually thought it was a musical for like a long time, just like a tried and true musical. And then fast forward to being more involved in the film community, realizing what it was, and I put it on my watch list a long time ago, and just never got around to. Still know you figured out it wasn't a musical. I just knew it was musical esque, and but I didn't really know much. And then picked it up at a thrift store. So, because sometimes that feels like an incentive to finally watch stuff. Um, but yeah, I've known about it for a while. It felt really good to finally watch it. Did you know about it?
I knew the final musical number. I've heard that several
Oh yeah, you
times
knew the song. See, I
back
didn't even
growing
know the
up.
song. You said, "Oh, that's what that song is."
Yeah. Yeah, but I guess I hadn't really it was totally different than what I was imagining in my mind. Um when we started it, It looks like Taxi Driver.
It
It's
is.
this
It's
very
edited like
like
that.
late 70s, really gritty, grimy, gross movie about, and it's a really nice contrast, the subject matter to the look of the film. But it looks like a kind of a normal 70s crime film,
Mhm. Which
which
is
was
not what
really
you'd
nice.
expect.
Or like the king of comedy, like a Scorsese movie.
Yeah. I pointed that out when we were watching. I said, "This is edited very, like, brown and gritty and nothing like you would think a film like this would be." And even in the sequences where there's music, it's still very gritty and
Hmm.
dark. And I thought that was cool. Instead of doing this, like, color, color, color,
And actually,
everything, it
my
was
favorite dance number or music number in the whole movie was the very long scene in that kind of dance studio where Gideon is showing the producers his new piece.
the flight
Yeah.
attendant thing into
Because, yeah,
the naked piece.
because it was what you want from a musical number, but it was so grounded in reality and the look of the film thus far.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
in the third act they really changed the look of the film, and I think it also became a little more on the nose and about the film rather than being in the film. So that scene really really worked for me. And it also was like it was shot so beautifully and the lights were going crazy. The lights were going crazy in a way that also wasn't practical for the scene.
True.
So
Yeah.
it did bring you out of it into a kind of musical place
Mhm.
where
Yeah.
musicals are also kind of set outside the scene,
Yeah.
but it was grounded enough where it still felt like all these characters living their real lives, and all the producers cutaway shots were really funny.
Mhm.
It definitely felt like they were showing an actual stage production in the middle of the movie,
Hmm.
which was really cool. To talk about the dark and grittiness of the movie, it kind of made me realize that that was kind of the tone of the entire movie to begin with. So maybe that's what they were going for, is to show that, hey, this is a dark and gritty story. But then again, that's life. Like, life
Hmm.
can be dark and gritty, especially if you've
Mhm.
gotten so far down the rabbit hole like he has. It could be kind of like that at times. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really think about it that way. Oh, the producer. This is the thing I was thinking about earlier. Okay, so the producers, them not wanting him, didn't really care about whether or not he lived or died. It's very interesting that they are like that because they both rely on him for the money that they're making because they want to be able to make their money back.
Mhm.
But as you said, because of the life insurance policy, they could have
Mhm.
easily done that. So they're putting on this act even in front of him to be like, "Oh yeah, thank you, good job, haha, we love you," and then behind closed doors, shitting on him the entire time, which happens a lot in real life. I feel like I've heard so many stories about producers nowadays that they do that kind of thing to try and appease whoever the creative is at the time to then get what they want out of them. I think honestly, it probably would have benefited everyone if they were a bit more truthful in their approach of things, because maybe it would have made things a little bit easier for Joe, but also easier for them.
Yeah.
But I may be wrong.
And I think that they, in their minds, they thought they could sort of replace him with John Lithgow's character, whom they were already
Yeah,
sort of grooming to be the next. And if it's based on, and obviously it's not one to one based on Bob Fosse's life, and nothing could be. But I wonder if when he was writing this in his mind, he was thinking of a new up and coming musical director he knew that he based John Lithgow's character on, like who that guy was.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that was a really funny character, I thought.
yeah.
Not that he was saying or doing funny things, but just the dynamic he had with everybody. And I love
I
that
think
scene when they were at the restaurant or coffee shop or wherever, and somebody came up to him and said, "You're my second favorite director, right
I was
behind Joe
literally
Gideon."
yeah. I thought it was great. You could see on his face where he was like, "I want to call you a bitch right now, but you're standing right in front of me, and this is very awkward." And yeah, I thought that was great. I thought Lithgow really pulled that off
Yeah,
really well. Yeah, is there
yeah.
anything else you can think of that I'm missing out on?
when I was watching it, I had a sort of guttural reaction to the third act. That was it was sort of negative. Because for my own personal taste, the first two acts of the movie were so right down the middle of my taste, and it was all feeling very perfect for exactly what I want to see in a movie. And I really loved the themes of the third act. But when I watched it, there was just a couple of things that weren't working for me, and it made kind of a what I was thinking was a perfect movie almost perfect. And it's not that it did anything horribly wrong. It was still everything was still working, but for me, that slight deviation, um, I was like, because I was like, oh, it's so close to being exactly the movie I was wanting it to be. But I do still think that everything worked really well, and they definitely got across everything that he was wanting to get across. All the themes were working, um, but that slight shift out of reality, but not in an abstract way. I like movies that when they shift from reality, it's a little more abstract and a little less on the nose. There was a scene in the movie where the guy, and I loved this bit, but the guy who was on TV introducing people for his variety show,
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny. But then there was a scene where he is literally looking directly into the camera and talking about the main character of the movie we're watching. And I was like, this is too on the nose. It's too out in the open. It's not abstract enough. Um, and I feel
Yeah.
like that is the kind of tone that it kept for the rest of the movie. Um, and
Yeah.
that for me was working a little less than everything else in the film had so far. Of course, it ended on a really good note for me when they
Yeah.
cut to that long shot of him in the body bag, which is very shocking.
Yeah.
Because I really thought it was going to fade to black when he was on the stage.
Just zip.
That was a very shy and a really high note, a dark high note
Mhm.
to end the film on.
Oh,
So
that's
it,
when I
it definitely left me in a positive way.
yeah. That scene of him in the body bag is when I finally, like, broke down. Where
Yeah,
I was just like,
yeah,
like, "Oh, no." Yeah, I think, the dream sequence, now that I'm kinda mulling it over a little bit more as you're talking through it, I feel like, a lot of people, when we talk about death, a lot of people are like, "Oh, yeah, whenever it's finally time," we all have that thing that plays in our head of, like, our final moments of, like, our life flashes before our eyes. So, Joe being a director and the entertainment world and Showtime being the only thing that he knows, right? The only thing that he lives, breathes, and thinks about, really, that being the final thing that he sees before he goes is kind of what that dream sequence is to me.
mhm,
Um, is that, like, he's getting that movie playing in his mind like we all do, but his version of it, because he is so stooped in the entertainment world, is gonna look very different to that of everyone else's. To
mhm,
where a lot of people, it may look like just a general slideshow, to him, it looks like a full stage production because that is what he is so used to. He is surrounded by it all the time.
mhm.
But I think that's kinda why it worked for me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
It's a super cool
Mhm.
concept,
yeah.
and really a beautiful last number. And I also liked how they did a great job of making everybody seem really happy, except for his daughter. I thought that was interesting too. His daughter was the only one who seemed really really tore up about it, but everybody in the audience was dancing and clapping along, and I thought that was a nice juxtaposition.
Yeah, that was a very interesting, scene, mostly because, like, throughout the majority of the movie, I was seeing Joe Gideon as very much a lot of a mirror of myself, but then whenever, his daughter was coming up to the bedside, it flipped to where I was the daughter and my dad was the person in the bed, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ," and so, like, it had just so many different layers that I was like, "Oh, this is very interesting to me."
Hmm.
That something that whenever I first rated this movie on Letterboxd, I was like, oh yeah, Bob Fosse made a movie for me 20 years before I was thought of, and he didn't even know it. And I was like, damn, that's so cool. And it's all because of that dream sequence and the way that it was all done. Which is why I think this movie is so beautifully crafted and beautifully done. Yeah, I will never stop talking about this movie. It's so good. Are you guys glad that it finally was knocked off your watch list?
Yeah, no, it was really nice to find. I love watching, especially big ones like this. I felt the same way watching this. I actually liked a little more, but like when you knock, like I had gone a long time and I hadn't seen Taxi Driver and all those. So when you knock all those big movies off that everybody likes, um, I always feel like it's like a sense of accomplishment. Like I've done my homework. I also really, really like watching movies that other people really, really like. Again, it's nerve wracking because what if I don't like it? But it's I don't know, it gives you a glimpse into to people and who they are, and so that was one of my goals for this year was to watch movies that my that my friends and people that I interacted with that they love, and so I made a point to add more of those to my watch list, and so it was really nice watching it, knowing too that you liked it so much, and so and then finding out you're not alone. Everybody that's so many high ratings from so many people. Um and so, sigh of relief because I did really like it. Even if I didn't resonate with it the way that you and others seem to, I still really, really liked it. And it's I could see why people love it. So
It was nice seeing a movie like this that I was aware of, but still genuinely surprised me. In kind of every aspect, it wasn't at all what I was imagining in my head. So to see a movie, and it also did, I guess because of how many movies it influenced over the years, it felt really ahead of its time while still feeling very much like a movie from the late 70s.
mhm.
So it was super cool. Really glad we had an excuse to watch it.
Yeah, I think
Because
that's
sometimes that's what
partially.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes you just need an excuse. It's not that you don't want to watch it, but there's so many movies out there, and we're watching every new movie and other movies on our watch list, or just other movies we hear about. And sometimes you really just need an excuse. That sounds bad, but it's true. You just need a push. So it's like,
No,
come
yeah,
on. You were like, we're
yeah,
doing this
no,
podcast. I'm like, I have to watch it then. We've got, and so 2 weeks ago, I said, okay, this Friday night we don't have anything. We had gone to see Backrooms the night before. I was like, so Friday night's open. We're gonna watch all that jazz. That's on the agenda. We're not changing it. Don't make any plans. And so that's what we did.
yeah. I'll,
Um,
I'll ask you guys about Backrooms after we're done with this, but yeah. So that was kind of the whole point of this thing was to finally get to that to where people are like knocking off movies that
yeah,
they have been putting off for a long time. Mostly because I needed to do the same thing.
yeah,
I don't know why I do this. I have what I like to call entertainment ADD, to where like I start one thing, especially when it comes to like series or video games or whatever that
mhm,
are longer form and not movies where you can sit down and watch it in one go.
yeah,
But like something that is longer form, it is harder for me to finally get through it
hmm,
all the way before I go, okay, I'm gonna put down for a minute, find something shiny and new, and then hop on that without finishing the other thing that I've already fucking started. I do
hmm,
it all the time. Um, so this one of the whole reasons for this podcast is to finally get to the movies that I've been putting off for a long time, where I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch that, but I'll get to it eventually."
yeah,
And then finding other people who are doing the same thing, I'm like,
hmm,
"Okay, wait. We can find a productive outlet to finally
yeah,
do that." It doesn't feel like we're wasting our time. It feels productive because
hmm,
we're both putting something out there
yeah,
to do that. And yeah, that's why I like doing this because we finally get to knock off those
yeah,
big ones. Like I knocked off Big Heat, I knocked off like a lot of big movies that I had known about for a long time and said,
yeah,
"Hey, I should probably watch that," but never got around to.
hmm,
So yeah,
yeah,
I'm glad that we finally got to do this.
yeah.
Is
There's
there
ever
anything else you guys thinking of?
no.
So what?
Oh no, I was just if there's ever another big movie that we haven't seen, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I've got a lot of them. I have so many big
uh,
movies.
same here. I've got a ton.
So many.
I've got a ton that I own that I haven't watched yet.
Yeah.
Too.
Like it's
we're
bad.
talking. He's talking about There Will Be Blood. We literally just watched that, like a month ago. Just
for the
watched
first
it
time.
first time,
Just watched it for the first
and then
time.
we had it on DVD for 6 months.
Did you
Finally
guys do
watched it.
the? Was a month ago? Was it in theaters? Oh no, it was in theaters in February. Did you go? You didn't see it in theaters, did you?
We got it on. It was one of those ones where I was like, "This is a movie by a director I know, people that I like, and everyone loves it. I have to watch it." I found it on DVD, so I just brought it home, and then just. It's also really long, and long movies I have to really set aside. It's long movies, especially a lot of really some of the best foreign films are like 3 hours long, and you just gotta set aside time to watch them. And there's not. I love to watch movies. There's not always time to watch a 3 hour movie, and
No.
so finding the time to watch those films is also another factor. Now this one wasn't as long, but other films, that is why I put them off sometimes, and I'll push them and push them and push them. And so I actually did. This was a month ago. I watched There Will Be Blood and The Matrix for the very first time in the same night.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
remember
was a
you
really
tweeting about
great
that.
night of movie
I was
watching.
like, my first thought was like, oh shit, she had a night.
I
Like,
did,
all right.
and they were both good, and that's all you can hope for when you're watching movies. Now, nobody wants to hear that I probably prefer The Matrix, but it's always fun to actually like the movies, because I recently watched Raging Bull for the first time, and I did
Nice.
not like it, and I did upset some
Fair.
people on the internet with that one. But and that happens sometimes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it happens sometimes.
Also, Raging Bull, kind of a similar narrative
oh yeah,
to all that jazz.
Yeah.
all these
Yeah,
kind of
no.
like movie about terrible men.
Yet I didn't want to punch Joe Gideon. I thought, I mean, I kind of wanted
He
to
could have used it.
flick him on the nose, but no, yeah,
Yeah, that's the
I
one thing
love
about Joe,
watching.
man. Like he's just
I love watching movies, but
crazy.
I love watching big ones.
So, guys, you want to go ahead and tell us where we could find you? Or actually, sorry, before that, will you rewatch this movie at all? I'm guessing you will. But will you rewatch all that jazz at some point?
I would rewatch
Yeah,
it.
I would rewatch. Sure.
Okay. Wait, you actually
Yeah.
heard
Yeah,
that
I
on
think so.
time. Okay. All right, cool.
If you rewatch this one, there's probably a lot more to get from it.
Yeah, I think a rewatch would actually maybe make you appreciate it more. I can't imagine
think
rewatching
so.
it and not like it and not liking it. So
Yeah. Um yeah, I mean, I've already rewatched it once. I'll probably rewatch it a million times because I do like it so much. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed it as well. I'm glad that we finally got to come together and do this.
mhm.
If there's anything else that you guys want to say real quick before we outro, and then if mind telling us where to find you. I mean, you've already kind of said that before the last time you were here, but just for those of you who are meeting Josie and Mitchell for the first time, um, where can we find all of your stuff and what you guys do?
I am on Letterboxd, and which you can link. I'll send it to you. And then I'm also on Twitter, or X, and it's the underscore other underscore JB. And that's where I am the most. It's where I talk about films and post all the different podcast episodes I do and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah,
And you can find Fort Stoweville Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and then our new thing is we've got a short film that will be out by the time this airs. We'll link it. It'll be on Vimeo. It's called The Steps. It is about a recovering alcoholic who is meeting and having dinner with a friend whom he hasn't seen since he's gotten sober. It's about 15 minutes, and then Somnia will be out at the end of the summer for streaming.
You guys are gonna make
and
me
Fort Silver's
cry,
also
aren't
on
you?
YouTube.
Yes, Forest Stowville's on YouTube. You can catch trailers for Somnia on there.
The steps sounds like it's gonna make me cry. Oh no, I'm
I
in
want to say
trouble.
no, but I also feel as though that's a compliment, so I hope so.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do this when we're this delayed because it is like 30 seconds. But again, I'm glad you guys were on. I can't wait to do this again. I don't know what movie we're gonna do this with next. Until next time,
Who knows?
bye.
Thanks for having us.